Hey you guys, Marlyn with Beautiful Beana Designs, back with another card share. Today I'll be sharing cards that I made using the My Monthly Hero May 2018 card kit by Hero Arts. This was a great kit. If you want to know more about what came in the kit, I did do an unboxing and I'll link it here down below in my description. The kit did come with some great watercolor paper. It didn't come with any cardstock or ink this month, so all of the cardstock and the ink are from my stash. Outside of that, I pulled a few additional items in, but for the most part, I stuck to what was in the kit to the greatest extent possible. Where I did bring things in, I will share that with you and possibly even link below. So let's get started. Here is the first card that I'd like to share with you today. It's the Little Things That Count. I did a little bit of an ink blending background. I did this one with swiping the ink colors across some cardstock. I did add to this one a little bit of Wink Estella on the children and some Nuvo White Blizzard glitter drops. Those are my favorite. I use them a lot. I really enjoy those. And then I just added a piece of vellum behind. Try to give you a close-up there. That's the first card. The second card, if you had an opportunity to watch my recent video, 6 cards, 1 stamp set, I used the Hero Arts Stamp and Cut butterfly set. I had made this butterfly in anticipation of using it on one of those cards, and I didn't. It was left over. When I saw this sentiment with Brave Wings She Flies, I decided to use that butterfly element here. It is heat embossed on some vellum using a blue sparkle embossing powder, and then I used some of those tree stamp and orange gloss embossing powder, and then I put this one on a craft card base. Give you a little bit of a close-up, and I will have photos of all these cards at the end as well. It might be easier to see them then as far as the close-ups go. When I learned that this card came with washi tape, I challenged myself and said I had to make sure that I used that washi tape as part of the design for at least a couple of these cards. I love washi tape. I have tons of it. I rarely use it as part of my designs. I often will put it on envelopes or something like that. But for this kit, I really wanted to make sure that I committed to using it in design. And here's the first card that I'd like to share with you where I used that washi tape as a background. I do believe that there were several different washi tapes that went out as part of this kit, so you would have gotten one of however many designs they included. Mine is very leafy. It's got a black kind of pine leaf element to it, and so it pulls in the black very nicely, and I did enjoy that. I added a little dog thinking of you and that swing with this fancy border die that was included in the kit. That's card 3. Here we are. This one I created another background by stamping those tree stamps and embossing them. This one says thank you for the beautiful moments with one of those children swinging here. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to emboss over the washi tape. I decided to give it a try. It came out okay. I don't know that I'd do it as a regular practice, but it was a fun experiment, and the final product is definitely giveable and shareable. I do think the card came out pretty nicely. I used a little bit of a white border just to keep the eye there in the center and to add some interest. I rounded the corners to keep this card feeling very soft. So there is card number 4. The 5th card I'll share with you today is a card that I created using multiple of the stamps from the set. These are all stamped in a black pigment ink and then clear embossed. I used the silver sparkle embossing powder on this one. That came with I want to say the March My Monthly Hero kit, as well as those matching sequins that came in that kit. And then for this background die, this is a Stephanie Barnard for Sizzix die. It's part of a die set. It comes with a bunch of dies. There are 3 large dies, 3 main dies that I use pretty frequently. This is the background die, and then the other dies will cut card bases for you. So it's pretty neat. Most of the time I just use my paper trimmer, but every once in a while I will use one of those dies for a particular reason. I believe the set is called Lovely. I will check that out and link it below. It's a great value, actually. You get a nice size set, and I think I paid maybe just over $20 for it, give or take. So if you'd like to check that out. Next, I'd like to share with you a card I made where I was going for an autumn feel. I used some red glitter embossing powder. I used both of those large dies, the fancy border as well as the oval, to separate it from the card base. I popped that up using some fun foam, added some red sequins from my stash, and to really give it a little something extra, I used a cloud design embossing folder for the background. I believe this embossing folder is by Doris. And so that is card number 6. Next, I have a card where I used the stencil that came with the kit, as well as the skeleton leaf elements that were included. I also used a bit of the ribbon that the kit was wrapped in. I wanted to try to stamp on this leaf. I really didn't know if that would work because it isn't solid. It's sort of like a mesh. But I thought, let's give it a try and see what happens. And I actually think it came out pretty good. Let me see. I think you can probably see it all right there. So that stamp obviously is not solid either, since the material, the medium that I stamped on isn't, but still it's quite clear. You can see easily what it says, and I think it gave it kind of a cool look. With regard to the stencil, I had mentioned in my unboxing video that I really have no experience using stencils. It's not something that I have really incorporated into my crafting up to this point. So it was interesting to try it out. And I found that I received mixed results, mostly because I was doing this through trial and error. But what's really interesting to me is the results I liked the best were those that I got by using the negative of the stencil. So, for example, for this one, I taped the stencil onto a piece of cardstock and I put embossing ink, clear embossing ink, all over it. And then when I had completely covered and had the intention of embossing the paper underneath, there was of course a bunch of ink on top of that stencil. So I grabbed a piece of black cardstock and just put it over top of the stencil, kind of pressed it down, picked up as much of that ink as I could, and then I embossed the negative image as well. And I really liked the way that came out. I have another example to share where I used the negative of that stencil, and I think it's really actually pretty cool. I like that stencil. Okay, next we have another experiment. For this card, I pulled in some white puff embossing powder by Hero Arts. I just purchased this. I had come across it on their website. It's included in one of their kits from, I think it's a year ago or something. I don't even remember. And I was intrigued by it, so I decided I wanted to try it. I bought just the embossing powder, not that whole kit. And I understand a lot of people use this for snow, but it is May right now, and I just don't need to make any cards that have snow on them. I'm not so sure anybody wants to see any more snow right now anyway. So I decided to try it for this tree. It is not, obviously it's not a fine detail powder, so the design didn't come out very crisp, and I'm not sure that I love it for this, but I do think the embossing powder is a great product, and I think that I will have many reasons in future to use it with stamps that maybe don't have such, that I don't need that crisp, fine detail. For things such as snow, maybe some sort of added embellishment, like if you were doing a Santa hat and used this along the white part of the hat, I think it would be super cool. But let me see if I can get you a little bit of a closer look at that. I try not to block the light when I come up. So I have a picture of this that I'll be sharing at the end too. But overall, I'm happy with the card. Thank you for the beautiful moments. I think that came out pretty nice, all things considered. And that is card number 8. So here is another example where I used the stamps of the children. I think those stamps are just so happy and fun. I really, really enjoyed the swings and the bicycle and all of that. It's just sort of a feel-good set that we got this month. Feel-good card kit, I should say. The children playing on those swings, and I stamped in some leaves. Very basic. Most of my cards this month were pretty simple because I think this card kit really called for simplicity. And then the background I created using some ink smooshing, and I created several backgrounds this way. I think that's the watercolor paper that came with the set. But I created several backgrounds this way, and then once I had them, I kind of decided which directions I liked and how I wanted to use them. But that part of this was especially fun. I haven't been doing much ink smooshing as of yet, but I really do think it's a fun technique. So, swinging by to say hello. Another simple but lovely card. All right, here we have one that's a little bit different. Another ink smooshing background there. I used the oval stamp once again, featuring that washi tape design. In my design, the washi tape, and Happy Thoughts is the sentiment. This one I decided to include just some of the animal stamps that came with it. I put a little cat on the swing. I don't know how likely it is that a cat would actually hop up onto a swing. They typically prefer more solid footing. But I did that here on my card, and those little animals are kind of just enjoying nature, no people around, and I bet they are having some happy thoughts. Okay, so these last 2 cards I'd like to share with you are my favorites from this month's kit. Here is a second example of where I used that Stencil's negative to create a card. I had taped the stencil down to another piece of paper, put a bunch of ink, sprayed some water, really wanting to blend that and create that tree design on my cardstock. It did, once again, of course, leave a bunch of extra material, the ink and the water and all of that, on the top of the stencil, which I went ahead and put another piece of paper over and absorbed a lot of what was on top of that stencil. And when I saw the result, I really just fell in love with it. I think it created a beautiful background. I didn't want to do too much to it. I didn't want to take away from just how it organically and naturally created such a beautiful image. So I just added a simple stamp of this young girl playing on the swing in the tree and the sentiment, "With brave wings she flies." I added 3 small sequins. They're in sort of an amber, deep amber color, which I thought went nicely with this card. That's card number 11 for today. And here we are. The last card that I'll be sharing with you today uses that sentiment, "Swinging by to say hello." When I saw this kit and I saw those really adorable stamps, the children playing on the swings, I decided pretty much immediately, I decided that I needed to have a card where there was actually swinging. So one of those kids was swinging in the card. And I wasn't really sure how I wanted to do that, but this is what I came up with. And you'll notice that she does swing back and forth. This is a little bit more of a nighttime design. So let me show you a little bit closer here. I'm not sure how well you could see it from the bottom, but she just swings back and forth. I thought that was kind of fun. Anyway, you can decide what you think. That's the last card that I have to share with you today. I did add these star brads. I added a bunch of Wink of Stella to the top here, and I added some black Nouveau drops to the bottom here just for a little bit more of a design element. And I hope you enjoyed the cards that I shared with you today. Please let me know if you did. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you. And I'd be interested in knowing which card was your favorite today. So please drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. I did notice as I made these cards, and I'm quite happy with the way they came out in general, but I noticed that I didn't use a tremendous amount of color. The natural, sort of the nature theme of this stamp set lent itself to using very earthy tones. And I realized after I'd made all these cards that I really didn't deviate too much from those earthy tones. So I have decided to challenge myself. I am going to try to make a card with this set using these colorful vibrant dye inks. They are Clearly Kelly, and I did get them through Hero Arts. So when I come back, we'll be using these colors to create a card using this kit, and maybe we'll create the card together, maybe we'll do a card share. I'm not really sure. If you have an opinion, I'd love to know what it is. Please, again, drop me a line below. And as always, thanks for spending your time with me. I hope that I have inspired you to make beautiful things. Have a great day. Bye-bye.